What's going on, everybody? I'm Patrick Chapla, founder of POWLAX and creator of POWLAX Master Coach, and in this video I'm excited to bring to you the 5 on a die drill. So every coach out there would love to have a defense that's as organized and on top of it as Notre Dame's defense or Maryland's defense, but for the most part that's never the case. There are two main reasons why defenses get beat. The first is that they don't quite understand the slides and rotations, how they work, and they end up leaving players open and then getting scored on. The second is basic athleticism, where if their players are more athletic than your players, you're just going to get run by. There are a couple other reasons in there, but those are the two main ones. So everybody has their own programs where they are creating more athletic players by lifting, sprinting, running, all of those things. And so we should have the same when we're thinking about teaching our defensive concepts. So I set out to create a couple drills that would slowly and incrementally build our players' understanding of how defensive concepts work. And so I came up with the line bump drill, triangle show drill, and 5 on a die drill, where the line bump drill teaches slide and recovery principles within a crease slide, like sliding, recovering, and bumping. And the triangle show drill teaches adjacent concepts. But so once you have all of those concepts built and a basic understanding, then you can build it into an entire system. And that's where the 5 on a die drill comes in. The 5 on a die drill is a defensive slide and recovery drill that teaches players their positions, stances, and the tactics involved in any man-to-man defense. And so what it does is it slows down the game and shows the players each individual role and how those roles combine to create a complete defensive strategy. So now our players are going to understand exactly why they need to use the communication tactics, why they need to spider in, and how it helps them to create a complete defensive strategy. In this video, we're going to show you exactly how to set up the 5 on a die drill, quickly go over some of the roles and assignments that each player will have within the 5 on a die drill as well as within an actual live defensive strategy, and then show you some examples of how to use 5 on a die to train a crease slide defense, adjacent slide defense, and near man defense. To set up the 5 on a die drill, you will set up 5 cones in a 5 on a die shape with 10 yards between the center cone and each perimeter cone. 10 players will then enter the drill, 5 offensive players with 1 at each cone, and 5 defensive players who will be playing them according to where the ball is. As a quick side note, if you want to run the 5 on a die drill with your defensive players when your offensive players are running more offensive-minded drills, you absolutely can. You just have to have your defensive players play the offensive roles. And so if that doesn't run very smoothly because you have poles playing poles and a lot of drop balls or strips, then you can absolutely have the defensemen who are playing defense within the drill use no sticks, and you'll get the same kind of reps with no sticks as you would if they had sticks. In all of our examples, we will start with this formation. A1 top left with the ball guarded by D1, A2 top right guarded by D2, A3 in the center guarded by D3, A4 bottom left guarded by D4, and A5 bottom right guarded by D5. Now let's go over some of the defensive roles. So each one of these roles are dependent upon the individual player's relation to the on-ball defenseman. So in our example, D1 is on ball. The on-ball defenseman's call is ball, and he has just one job to do: defend the ball carrier. D2 and D4 are adjacent defensemen. D2's call is right, and D4's call is left. Adjacent defensemen are responsible for guarding their own men, A2 for D2 and A4 for D4, and being in a position to help the on-ball defenseman if he gets beat towards their part of the field. For instance, if D1 gets beat to his right, D2 will need to be able to help D1. The same goes for D4 if D1 gets beat to his left. They are also responsible for being in a position to rotate to multiple players if the dodge moves away from them. A good rule for all players on the field is to spider in towards the dodge if a dodge is moving away from you. D3 is our crease defenseman. His call is hot, I go, or one, depending on the terminology that you use with your team. His job is to defend his own man, A3, and be able to help D1 if he gets beat to the middle. He needs to do this by maintaining ball side leverage on A3 and staying sideways. This means that he is always between his man and the ball and is in a sideways stance so he can turn his head and keep track of his own man and the ball carrier. D5 is our 2 defenseman. His call is 2 for 3 reasons. First, his man is 2 passes away from the ball. Second, he is responsible for 2 players depending on which type of defense we are in. If we are in a crease sliding defense, he is responsible for his man and half of A3. If we are in an adjacent sliding defense, he is responsible for his man and half of A2 or A4, depending on which direction the dodge goes. Finally, he is the second slide. If we are in a crease sliding defense and D3 slides to the ball, he must be in a position to guard the most dangerous man on the field, A3. If we are in an adjacent slide defense and D2 or D4 have to help the ball, he will be responsible for whichever player those two leave. So if D2 slides to the ball, he will be responsible for A2. If D4 slides to the ball, he will be responsible for A4. Now let's dive right in and show you exactly how the drill works. The drill starts with the offensive players moving the ball around the perimeter. During this time, the defensive players are reacting to the ball movement, making positional calls, and staying prepared to help the on-ball defenseman. In this part of the drill, coaches are going to focus on two main things. The first is communication, and communication is often thought of as just letting other people know where you are. But for a lot of younger players, if they start to communicate, they will actually fill their responsibilities more completely by understanding what they're saying and exactly what responsibilities that role has. Second is stance and positioning, and so we always want our players to be in a low athletic stance, sideways, making sure that they can see the ball and their man with their sticks up in a passing lane. Another very important thing to keep in mind when you're training this portion of the drill is to make sure that players aren't just talking to talk. When a player says left, he needs to be able to defend the left of the ball carrier. When he says two, he needs to make sure he's spidered in covering the crease or can react as a second slide in an adjacent slide defense. So it's very important that players don't just communicate to communicate because you told them that that's what they have to say there. They need to draw an association between what they are saying to what their responsibility is and actually show it on the field. So holding kids accountable in this level of the drill will help them tremendously as they move into real 6-on-6 defense. Once defensemen have a good understanding of exactly how they need to react to the ball as it's being moved around the perimeter, we can move on to integrate slides, recoveries, dodges, rotations, all of those things that we would see in a live defensive set. So when you get started running 5-on-a-die drill, I really recommend making sure that everybody on the field knows exactly what they should do, especially the offense. So I usually like to tell all of our offensive players exactly what they're doing before we start each rep so that the defense can get the look of exactly what the rep should look like. Eventually, we're going to turn this into a game where the offensive players are trying to hold the ball over the center cone, or we'll even create a little box out of 4 cones so that they can try to run through that with the ball. This way, our players are actually playing a game and are, operating really quickly rather than just explaining it like we're about to do when we go through our examples. Now we're going to cover an example of a crease slide defense, adjacent slide defense, and near man defense, and every example we give is going to get a little more complicated from the offensive and defensive side of the ball to give you the full realm of what you can do in the 5-on-a-die drill. In our crease slide example, we will have the offense run just a dodge with no motion. The ball will swing around the perimeter until it hits A1. Once A1 catches the ball, he will dodge to his right past D1, forcing D3 to slide. As the dodge happens, D2 will want to spider in towards the dodge and be able to help where he can, because a throwback here is less likely. D4, on the other hand, can extend out towards A4 and apply some pressure because he knows that D3 is going to slide. As D3 slides, he will yell fire, announcing that he is leaving his man to help the ball, and at this point we will have two objectives. First, we can have D3 tell D1 to recover to the middle and bump D5 back out to A5 before the ball swings to A5, or we can try to force a turnover by doubling A1 with D1 and D3. For the most part, if we're teaching recoveries, we will have D3 yell find one or recover to D1, and D1 will recover to the middle and bump D5 back out to play A5 as the ball continues to move. If at any time A3 is open on the crease, any player can try to feed him. If A3 catches the ball on the crease, the offense wins the drill and will reset. If the ball stays on the perimeter, the ball will continue to swing and the next offensive player that wants to dodge will be able to dodge, and the drill will continue with dodges and slides and recoveries. Now, in our adjacent example, we're going to have the offense run a carry shallow cut. So, as A1 catches the ball, we will have him carry to his left and A2 will shallow cut, essentially switching places with him. As the dodge and shallow cut happen, D2 will want to stay inside of A2 and be able to play the ball after A2 passes him. D3 will stay matched up with A3 in the middle, D4 will want to spider in towards the dodge, and D5 will spider in towards the dodge. Once D2 decides to slide, he will yell fire, letting everyone know that he is helping the ball, and once he slides, we will have this situation. D1 and D2 on ball, D3 covering the crease, and D4 and D5 backside splitting A2, A4, and A5. From here, we have a couple of options. First, we have the option to double with D1 and D2, or have D2 tell D1 to recover. If D2 tells D1 to recover, D1 will recover to the inside first, and we will react on the direction of the first pass. If the pass is thrown forward to A5, D5 will play A5, D4 will play A4 as the right, and D1 will recover in to be the 2 guarding A2, but in enough to help on the crease with A3. If the pass is thrown back to A2, D4 will rotate to A1 and take ball, D5 will rotate to A4 and be the left, and D1 will recover in to be the 2, guarding A5 but helping on the crease with A3. From here, the ball will keep moving until another offensive player decides to dodge. Finally, we're going to go over the near man slide package versus a carry shallow cut with a backside 3-man rotation. So the offense will make these movements. A1 will carry to his left and A2 will shallow cut underneath him. As this happens, A5 will cut the middle, A3 will pop out to bottom left, and A4 will fill to bottom right. As the dodge happens, we will want D2 to show in the dodging lane before sliding. D5 will be carried into the crease by A5's cut. D3 will want to stay in, accounting for A2 on the shallow cut and account for the motion of A3. And D4 will want to track A4 while spidering in towards the dodge. On the slide, A2 will yell fire and slide to the ball, and we will be left with this scenario. D1 and D2 on ball with A1, D5 guarding A5 on the crease, and D3 and D4 on the backside splitting A2, A3, and A4. From here, in recovering situations, we will react the same way that we would in an adjacent slide package. If the ball is thrown forward to A4, D4 will play A4, D3 will match up as the right playing A3, D1 will recover to the middle before becoming the 2 and guarding A2. If the ball is thrown back to A2, D3 will rotate to take A2, D4 will rotate to cover A3 as the new left, and D1 will recover to the middle, picking up A4 backside and becoming the new 2. So as we went through those examples, we didn't really go over exactly what happens after our first slide and recovery. But what we want to have happen is we want the offense to move the ball and then have a secondary dodge that we can then slide and recover to. And so this is going to be very game-like in the fact that as we slide and recover, there's going to be a secondary dodger that we want to be able to slide and recover to. And it might sound simple, but it's actually pretty difficult for players to go through the checklist in their head as they go from sliding to recovering to right to on ball and then trying to figure out exactly where they should go. The next thing about these examples is that each one of these defenses has different rules. So the crease slide defense has different rules than the adjacent slide defense, which has different rules than the near man defense. And so it's very important that as you're building these with your players, you are teaching them the entire concept of all of these rules, which we did not cover within this drill. But so I'm a big fan of the near man defense, and there is a video explaining all of the rules and how to run the near man defensive concept on POWLAXmastercoach.com. So if you want to check that out, definitely check it out. I'll be getting to the crease slide defense and adjacent slide defense a little bit later. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you feel prepared to run the 5 on a die drill with your players. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for me, you can leave a comment down in the comment section, or you can email me at patrick@powlax.com. If you want to learn more, make sure to check out all the other videos at POWLAXmastercoach.com. And if you really like this video, make sure to share it and follow POWLAX on all the social media platforms. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next video.